Well, believe me, I lose my temper as well. But the answer to that, when I really go to that wizard inside of me and ask him, why do I lose my temper? And the wizard points out to me, you lose your temper when you lose your connection to me. To be aware and to live in the moment of now, to live in this present moment, well, this is a time when you're in that present moment, you don't lose your temper. In other words, when you're faced with a provocation, like I was the other day, when my refrigerator that I had recently bought was not delivered, and it was supposed to be delivered, and I really lost it because it was greatly inconveniencing not to have that delivery at that time. Lost my temper and got into all kinds of difficulty with the with the trucking company and so on. And we've all experienced that, I'm sure. But the fact is that the separation from myself that took place, my goodness, it lasted. That was a consequence of losing my temper, and it's a bad consequence. But I spoke before about a man's three big needs, and one is security, and the second one is control, and the third one, of course, is approval. But to lose control is to lose your temper. Well, what can we do about that? I mean, to seek ways of staying in contact with that wizard. I mean, it's like responding to an offense rather than reacting to it. But if you have just that, a little time to go back inside, back to where that wizard lives, back to where you really are, you actually lose contact with who you are when you lose your temper. And it's a bad situation. It can result in some terrible consequences. And I've been on a planet as long as I have, 95 years. I've lost my temper a lot. But let me tell you, that is not the way to be. That is absolutely something that must be corrected. And the neurologists and the psychologists and the researchers have talked about what it is, why you lose your temper. Well, there is an article I just read by a neurologist researcher where he talked about something called the amygdala hijacking. Well, these are fancy words, but when the amygdala, which is a section of the brain toward the base of the brain, that is concerned with something they call fight and flight, that when you're confronted with an unpleasant situation, then you immediately react to it. You don't respond to it, you react to it. And this is part of our nature, and this is normal. To control that, there is another part of our brain in the neocortex, and this is where who we are really live. This is where our good judgment is. And when we can move from that amygdala to our neocortex, as you were, yes, it takes a few minutes because it's a distance away. They're not directly connected with each other. So it's almost normal and natural to lose your temper. But to be aware of that, is to be aware of who you really are. And to be aware, I mean, we are our awareness. And if we're not aware, my goodness, we're back to our animal stage. This is not who we are. It is not who you are. It's not who I am. Our awareness, our consciousness, this is where we are. And if we become totally unconscious, my goodness, we become like animals. I mean, our consciousness is really controlled with the human being by his conscience, and we know about that. But if we're going to be confronted with something and react to it as an animal would, he called it, this neurologist, I wish I could remember his name, He called it the amygdala hijacking. They hijack who we are, the amygdala, that part of the brain. So to be in control of that part of the brain is what these teachings are all about. To learn to be aware, to be that human being that we are, you and I am.